I'm Carlin, 32, living in the suburbs just outside Portland, Oregon. For over a decade, I've worked as a handyman, installing, repairing, fixing, and patching, pretty much whatever people need. Early on, I hustled hard, taking every job I could to stay afloat. Over the last few years, though, I've built a solid reputation, so now I pick the jobs I want. I no longer work out of desperation. I work because I enjoy it. My place is small, nothing fancy, but it's mine, a quiet street with good neighbors. My life is generally steady. I was married once, but we split 3 years ago. We just grew tired of each other. No real drama, it just stopped working. We have a 5-year-old son, Max, who stays with her, but I see him every weekend, and I never miss it. He's my world. Still, once the day ends, it's just me, and sometimes the silence, the lack of someone to come home to, wears on me. I'm not always lonely, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss having someone to share things with. Anyway, that's life. This story began on a Tuesday. The weather was mild, not too cold. I was sipping coffee in my truck, scrolling through upcoming jobs on my phone. One caught my eye. A repair gig in a newer neighborhood. Replace 2 light fixtures in a living room and mount a flat-screen TV on the wall for $500. It'd take 2 or 3 hours. Easy money? I tapped accept, called the listed number, and a woman answered. Her voice was calm, polite, and sounded young. She gave me the address, said she'd be home all day, and we agreed I'd stop by around 10 to check things out before starting. When I pulled up, the house stood out. Neat lawn, modern siding, a tasteful porch with a hanging chair. Nice place. Either she bought it recently or kept it in great shape. I grabbed my clipboard and knocked. A second later, she opened the door, brown hair pulled back, soft features, maybe late 20s or early 30s, wearing a sweatshirt and jeans, casual but put together. Her name was Marley. "Hi, you must be Carlene," she said, smiling, stepping aside to let me in. Her voice was definitely the one from the phone. "Yep, that's me. Just here to check the space and see what I'm working with," I replied. She led me to the living room, explaining what she needed. The room was bright and spacious, with tall windows and simple furniture. The 2 old ceiling lights needed replacing, and a new TV, still in its box, leaned against the wall. "That's the one I need mounted," she pointed. "I bought the bracket. It's over there." Perfect. This would be no problem. "I'll grab my tools and we'll get started," I said. Most clients leave me to work, making calls, cooking, or watching TV. Not Marley. She stayed nearby from the moment I returned with my toolbox, not hovering uncomfortably, but clearly interested. "So, how do you anchor a TV like that? Does it depend on what's behind the wall?" she asked, arms folded, watching me unpack. "Yeah, exactly," I said. "I'll use a stud finder to make sure it's secured to the framing. Drywall alone won't hold it." She nodded, genuinely engaged. "Makes sense. I'd be terrified to do this myself." I chuckled. "You'd be surprised how many try." She laughed too. "And end up calling someone like you when it crashes to the floor, huh?" "Pretty much." We kept talking as I worked. I tried to focus, but she was easy to talk to, curious without being annoying. She asked about my tools, how electrical work is done, how I learned the trade. I told her about growing up fixing stuff in my dad's garage and how I turned that into a career after getting sick of office work in my early 20s. "So you like it?" she asked. "I love it. I work with my hands, set my own schedule, avoid office politics. Hard to beat." She smiled. "You seem like someone who enjoys what he does. That's rare." I tightened the last screw on the first light fixture and glanced at her. "It took time to get here, but yeah, I enjoy it." When I moved to the TV, she pulled over a chair, not hiding her interest in staying nearby. I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice, and truthfully, it didn't bother me. She was easy to talk to, asked smart questions, and there was something about her, maybe her energy or the way she looked at things. It was subtle, but this wasn't just another job. Halfway through mounting the TV, she brought me a glass of water without me asking. Some clients are polite like that, but the way she handed it to me, with a soft warmth in her eyes, made me pause. "Thought you might need this?" she said, smiling. It lingered in my mind. "Thanks," I said, wiping my hands before taking it. She sat on the edge of the couch, watching me work. Do you ever get bored doing this kind of thing over and over? I shrugged. Not really. Each job's different in its own way, and I like the rhythm. Some need quiet to think. For me, drilling holes and lining things up clears my head. She smiled, looking at her hands. That sounds nice, having something that makes you feel settled. I nodded and returned to the wall bracket. What about you? What do you do? She hesitated, like she wasn't sure how much to share. I used to work in marketing, agency life, long hours, short deadlines. I left about a year ago. Burned out? Yeah, and tired of chasing clients who didn't care. These days I do freelance stuff from home, enough to get by. A short, thoughtful silence followed, not awkward, just present. I finished drilling the final hole, stepped back to check the bracket's level. It was. As I unpacked the TV, she stood and walked to the window, arms loosely crossed. My ex-husband didn't think I needed a career, she said softly. He said I was wasting time with creative crap. I didn't know what to say at first. She wasn't looking for pity. It felt like she needed to say it out loud. He sounds like a real motivational speaker, I said with a smirk, keeping the tone light. She laughed a little. He was a lot of things. Divorced recently. Almost 3 years now, she said, facing the window. It's funny how fast time goes when you're trying to forget something. I paused, looking at her. Her posture carried a quiet weight. No drama, no tears, just something real. You have any kids? I asked gently. She shook her head. No. We tried, but it never happened. He blamed me. I blamed myself. But in the end, I think the real problem was we didn't love each other the way we should have. I leaned against the wall, letting the silence settle. I've been around enough people to know when someone's processing, not just talking. I've got a son, I said finally. He's 5. Weekends with me. I don't always know what I'm doing, but I show up. That counts for something, I hope. She turned, leaning lightly against the window frame. It does? For a few seconds, we just looked at each other. Not in a cheesy, romantic way, but like two adults who've been through life, quietly acknowledging it. I returned to the TV, lined it up on the bracket, and started attaching it. She came closer, arms crossed again. I didn't think I'd tell you all that, she said with a nervous chuckle. I usually don't with strangers. I don't think we're strangers anymore, I replied without thinking. She looked at me. No, I guess we're not. I tightened the last bolt, ensured the TV was secure, and stepped aside so she could see. There you go, solid, centered, ready for a Netflix binge. She grinned. That's perfect, thank you. I started packing my tools while she stood nearby. Then, as I reached for the last screwdriver, she spoke quietly. Can I ask you something? Sure. She hesitated, just long enough to make me look up. Do you think I deserve to be happy? I blinked. The question wasn't casual or rhetorical. She meant it. She was searching for something real, maybe validation, maybe just someone to say what she couldn't. I didn't rush. I stood there, taking in her expression. I don't know everything you've been through, I said slowly. But from where I'm standing, yeah, I think you do. Her eyes grew shinier, and she nodded once, not dramatically, just enough to say thank you without words. I finished packing in silence, not awkward, but filled with something new, like we'd both acknowledged something unspoken. As I walked to the door with my toolbox, she followed. Thanks again, Colin, she said softly, for everything. I turned. It was just a simple repair. She smiled gently. Maybe not that simple. The next few days were quiet. I stayed busy with other jobs, but I couldn't stop thinking about that moment, her question, her tone, the look in her eyes. It wasn't flirtation or a test. It was honest, raw, like something she'd held in for years. Normally, I move on from a job once it's done. It's part of the lifestyle. Do the work, get paid, move to the next. But Marley stuck with me. There was a weight to her, but also a lightness, like someone who needed a break in the storm. By Thursday, I found myself hovering over her contact in my phone more than once. I didn't want to cross a line. She was a client, after all. But I remembered how she looked when I answered her question. There was something real there. So, I sent a message. Hey Marley, hope your new lights and TV are still holding strong. If you're free Sunday evening, I'd love to grab that coffee. No pressure. I hit send and put my phone down. Within 5 minutes, she replied, I'd love that. There's a quiet place near the park on Maple Street, 6:00 p.m. Simple, casual. Sunday came and I arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. That's just who I am. I grabbed a patio seat, ordered coffee and waited. It was one of those cozy places with string lights and mismatched chairs. Marley showed up on time, casual jeans, dark green coat, hair down. She looked comfortable, calm. Hey, she said, smiling as she sat. Hey, I replied. Glad you made it. They brought her coffee, and for a moment we sipped in silence, adjusting to the shift. This wasn't a job anymore. It was something else. I almost didn't come, she said after a while. Not because I didn't want to, she clarified quickly. I did, but I wasn't sure if I was ready for, well, anything. I nodded. I get that. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I should ask. She gave me a sideways look. Why did you? I leaned back, choosing my words. Because you asked me a question that stuck with me. I don't know, I just felt like there was more there, and I wanted to know what it was. She looked at her cup, fingers running along the rim. There is a lot more, but I've gotten good at hiding it. Then maybe we just start with a little, I said. You don't owe me anything. She took a breath. I was married for 6 years. We met young. Too young, probably. He was charming at first, made big promises, said he loved that I was creative, passionate, driven. But after we got married, that started to bother him. He wanted me to calm down, stop trying so hard. He said my ambition made him feel like he wasn't enough. I listened, not interrupting. I worked long hours because I believed in what I did. He believed in comfort, in staying small. He started to cheat. I found out 2 years in. I stayed anyway, thought I could fix it. You know how that story ends. Yeah, I said quietly. I do. She looked at me. It's been 3 years since we split. I've dated a little, nothing serious. Every time I think something might grow, it fizzles, or it's built on nothing real. I started to wonder, maybe I'm too much, or maybe I missed my chance. You didn't miss anything, I said without thinking. You just haven't met someone who sees it yet. Her eyes flicked toward me, like she was deciding whether to believe that. What about you? She asked. What's your story? I chuckled softly. It's not as heavy, but it's not perfect. I got married at 25. We had Max a year later. He's the best thing I've ever done, no question. But the marriage, it was quiet. No fights, no passion either. We were more like roommates than partners by the end. She left first, and I didn't blame her. I think we were both waiting for someone to call it. Marley nodded, like she understood. I guess, I added, I've been focused on work and being a dad. Somewhere along the way, I forgot what it feels like to be seen by someone. That last line hung between us. She reached across the table, touched my hand for a second. Well, she said gently, now you're seen. I didn't move, didn't say anything, just held her gaze. It wasn't a date in the traditional sense, but by the time we left the cafe, something had shifted. We didn't make plans or define what this was. We stood outside in the cool night air. I'll walk you to your car, I offered. She smiled. Thanks. Her car was down the block. We didn't say much as we walked. When we got there, she opened the door and turned. This was really nice, she said. It was, I agreed. I'm glad you messaged me. Me too. There was a moment, a beat too long, the kind where you wonder whether to lean in or walk away. I didn't lean in. I just said, "Good night, Marley." She smiled. "Good night, Colin." And I walked away. The next week dragged slower than usual. I kept busy with small jobs, but my head wasn't fully in it. I'd catch myself thinking about Marley, screwing in a cabinet hinge, driving to patch drywall. That coffee wasn't just a nice conversation. It felt like the start of a connection I hadn't let myself hope for in a long time. We texted a little that week. Short messages, a check-in, a joke, nothing heavy. I didn't want to push too fast, and from her warm but careful replies, I sensed she felt the same. The space between us wasn't distance. It was two people figuring out the next step. Then came Saturday. I just finished a morning job replacing bathroom tile and was eating a late lunch on my porch when her name lit up my phone. "Crazy idea. Call me when you can." I called immediately. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said, her voice light but unsure. "Okay, so this is going to sound impulsive." "I like impulsive," I said, setting my plate aside. She laughed, nervously. "I've had this trip booked for months. China, a week. I've always wanted to go. It was supposed to be with a friend, but she bailed last minute." "Okay," I said slowly, sensing where this might go. "I was thinking, I don't want to go alone. I've put this off for years, and I finally bought the damn ticket. I was going to cancel, but then I thought, what if I didn't? What if I just asked?" A beat of silence. "Colin," she continued, "would you come with me?" I froze, not from hesitation, but surprise. We'd known each other less than a month, had only one real outing. But the idea didn't scare me. It excited me. "When's the flight?" I asked. "Monday night." "Okay," I said. "Wait. Okay, like you need to think about it, or okay, like you'll come?" "Okay, like yeah, I'll come." She let out a breath, almost a laugh of disbelief. "Really? Really?" I said. "Why not?" And just like that, something shifted again. I cleared my work schedule, packed a small suitcase, and dug out my passport from a drawer I hadn't opened in over 2 years. Max would be with his mum all week, and I hadn't taken time off in a while. We met at the airport Monday evening. She was at the gate, carry-on at her feet, and stood when she saw me, her eyes lighting in a way that put me at ease. "You really did it," she said. "You asked." The flight was long, 12 hours to Beijing, but we talked through most of it. About everything. About nothing. Family, work, childhood, favorite foods, travel dreams. The kind of conversation that flows naturally when you're at 30,000 feet with no distractions but each other. When we landed, it was morning. Beijing buzzed, taxi horns, thick air, movement everywhere. Marley had everything planned. She wasn't the type to wing it. We checked into a quiet hotel on a narrow side street. Clean, charming, twin beds, I noticed. She caught my glance and smirked. "Let's keep this simple." "Absolutely," I said, matching her smile. That first day, we visited the Temple of Heaven, wandered through hutong alleys, ate street food we couldn't pronounce. Marley was in her element, curious, open, excited. I saw a side of her I hadn't back home. A woman who didn't just want to exist quietly, but to live loudly, fully. The second day, we hiked a quieter section of the Great Wall. I watched her climb uneven steps, wind whipping her hair, laughing when she nearly tripped on a loose stone. "This is insane," she shouted, turning back. "I can't believe I'm here." "Me neither," I said, catching up, "but I'm glad we are." We sat on the wall, drinking warm, bottled water, catching our breath. She turned to me. "You know, I almost didn't send that text. I was sitting in my kitchen for an hour, wondering if I was crazy." "Maybe you are," I said, "but I'm glad you're the right kind of crazy." She nudged my shoulder. "You're not so bad yourself, Colin." The rest of the week felt like a dream. We took trains to Xi'an and Suzhou, floated on boats through ancient canals, visited gardens that looked like paintings. Each night, we'd talk until we couldn't keep our eyes open, sometimes in the hotel lobby, sometimes on the sidewalk. We never crossed the line, and that made it feel more real. On the sixth night, in a Chengdu tea house, soft rain tapping the windows, she looked tired, but content. "I've never felt this close to someone I barely know," she said, holding her cup. "I don't think time decides that," I replied. "Some people you've known for years never see you. Others only need a moment." She nodded, setting her cup down. "I don't want this to end when we go home," she said. "Neither do I." No kiss, no dramatic music, just a quiet agreement between two people stepping out of survival mode into something better. We flew back the following Monday. The flight home was quieter, not because things had changed, but because we'd spent so much time together. We knew what the other was thinking. There's comfort in silence when a connection is real. We took a cab to her house. It was early evening, the sky soft and pale, that in-between light before sunset. The driver pulled up and we sat there, not moving. "This is the part where I usually go inside and pretend nothing happened," Marley said, half joking. I turned to her. "Is that what you want to do?" She didn't answer right away. She unbuckled her seatbelt, looked at me like she was searching for something. "No, it's not." She leaned over, kissed my cheek, not quick, not romantic, more like a promise. "Text me when you get home." "I'll call," I said. We smiled and she got out. And I watched her walk to her door, and just like that she was inside. The drive home felt surreal, like waking from a dream that followed me into reality. I kept thinking about the trip, her watching street performers like they were telling her something, getting quiet around families with kids, saying thank you for every small gesture, even a napkin or umbrella. At home, I unpacked, stood in my kitchen for 5 minutes, then called her. "Hey," she answered immediately. "I'm back," I said. "Me too." Neither of us knew what to say next. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was the moment where this could stay a memory or become something real. So I said carefully, "What now?" She paused, then said, "Well, I was thinking maybe I could make dinner this weekend, something simple, and maybe you bring Max." That stopped me. Not in a bad way, just heavy, important. "You sure?" I asked. "I want to meet the most important person in your life. If this is real, and I think it is, I want to be part of all of it, not just the travel or light conversations. All of it." I let out a slow breath. "Okay, yeah, we'll come by." And we did. That Saturday I brought Max. He was shy at first, typical 5-year-old stuff. Marley didn't try too hard. She just let him take his time. She had juice boxes, homemade mac and cheese, let him sit on the counter while she cooked. By the end of the night, he was showing her how he could count to 110, and she was laughing like she'd known him for years. It wasn't flashy, no fireworks, no big speeches, but it felt steady, right, like something we could build on. Weeks became months. We saw each other regularly, some weekends with Max, some just us. We took it slow, not out of fear, but respect. She came to one of Max's soccer games in the fall. I helped her set up shelves in her home office. She met my mom at Thanksgiving. Everything flowed naturally, without drama or confusion. 3 months in, she told me she was pregnant. She was terrified, so was I, but that night, staring at the positive test, I said, "We'll figure it out together." And we did. We got married the following spring in a quiet backyard ceremony, nothing huge, just family, a few friends. Max walked down the aisle with a ring box, the world's biggest grin on his face. Marley wore a simple white dress. I wore a navy suit. No nerves, just calm. That was 3 years ago. Now I'm on the same porch where I read her first message. The sun's setting. Marley's inside, rocking our youngest, little June, who just turned 1. Max is in the yard, trying to teach our dog to catch a frisbee. It's not going great, but he's determined. I'm just sitting here thinking about that simple Tuesday when I opened my app, saw a $500 job and thought, easy work, quick money. I came to do a simple repair and left with a whole new life. People talk about love at first sight. That wasn't us. We didn't crash into each other like a movie. We met, talked, listened, built something slowly, quietly, truthfully. It turns out, sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest decisions. Would I have guessed mounting a TV would lead me here? Not in a million years. But I'm glad it did.